You never quite know what you're going to see in a day out there on the water, and I gotta imagine the Coast Guard's pretty used to that by now, but one thing you wouldn't suspect to see is something like this: a gentleman by himself on a paddleboard in the middle of the ocean. Now don't get me wrong, when we see migrants out there on the ocean, we think of scenes more like this one, but the Coast Guard's probably seen it all by now. This was a Chinese migrant approximately 25 miles off the coast of the Bahamas trying to paddle toward the US. He was intercepted by the Coast Guard and brought back to the Bahamas, but just one of the wild things we'll witness in this week's episode of Boating News of the Week. Our first story to make the boating news this week is going to take us over to California in the Ocean Beach area, where this was the scene just a little over a week ago, when early in the morning near Ocean Beach, a vessel approached the surf lineup at a famous surfing spot when all of a sudden the vessel got a little too close and got caught by a wave and wound up capsizing. The real surprise here was the amount of people that wound up being on this vessel, as according to Coast Guard reports, it is believed that there was approximately 20 people on the boat at the time of the incident. Local San Diego authorities claim they believe the vessel was a migrant smuggling vessel trying to bring the 20 people on board illegally into the United States. With the added weight on the vessel, it got itself in trouble as it wound up approaching the surf line, and with the added weight of all the people on board, they were unable to control the vessel, and that's how it found itself in the situation we're in here. Fortunately, local surfers jumped into action, paddling over to attempt to rescue the people trying to get off the boat, as well as local lifeguards all jumped into the beach as well. Coast Guard says they believe there was approximately 20 people on the boat, but they don't have an exact count, as many of these people actually swam to shore and took off before authorities could arrive. At this time, after looking around for any information I could find, I could not find any info on whether anybody was actually arrested or detained from this situation. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to take us over to Florida, where this was the scene just about a week ago when Volusia County sheriffs wound up having to rescue a man who wound up passing out on his boat. The incident seen in the images here, according to officials, happened on Lake Diaz and De Leon Springs, according to the Volusia County Sheriff's Office. They said in a report it appeared that the man had been driving his boat out on the lake when all of a sudden a medical emergency occurred and the man wound up passing out. Fortunately, in this situation, there was a local Volusia County Sheriff's patrol boat on the lake at the time of the incident, and they wound up spotting the vessel going out of control under full power, spinning circles in the middle of the lake. Initially, they did not see anybody on board the boat, but as they began to approach the vessel to try and come up with a plan to try and get it under control, they noticed the man was passed out down on the deck of the boat. The crews quickly jumped into action, trying to come up with a plan to find a way to get on board the vessel and kill the power to the boat and get the man the medical assistance that he needs. Here we can see the vessel comes very close to the land several times, and at one point in time they tried knocking the boat onto the beach to hopefully get it stopped. But here, as we can see, after it continues circling, it actually starts to pull away from the beach, causing the crews to have to switch their strategy. Fortunately, one of the firefighters on board the sheriff's vessel decides to go ahead and make a charge for it at the last second and jumps on board the boat and is able to pull the power back. Once he's on board the vessel, one of the things they do notice on the boat is what appears to be a diabetes kit, thinking that that may be the cause as to why the man has passed out behind the helm. Fortunately, in this situation, the crews are able to go ahead and get the gentleman off the boat and get him back to shore and get him the medical assistance he needs, and he winds up being fine without injury in the end. But this one does serve as a good reminder: things can go wrong out there on the water at any point in time. So every time you're out there on the water, you should always wear the safety kill switch lanyard from your vessel to try and prevent incidents like this from happening. And this is another sobering reminder that while it might not always be the most convenient or coolest thing when you're out there on the water, you probably should always have some sort of life vest on as well. This guy wound up falling on the deck, but just as easily could have wound up falling overboard, and with no life jacket, that could have been a deadly situation. Thanks for watching, crew. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Boating News of the Week. If you ever see anything crazy happening out on your waterways, be sure to hit us up on Facebook or Instagram and let us know, and you might see your stories over here, just like Craig Robinson and Corey Green did this week. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here. If not, we're coming to steal your drain plug.